Right, fam, we are going to do this as quick as possible because it is 10 o'clock at night, and I'm very, very tired. I saw both the matinee and the finale all in one day, so I've been out all day and I just want to be in pajamas in bed. So I have written my notes. We are going to go through this as in an orderly fashion as I can manage without rambling. And we are going to start with the theatre first, and it was in the ACT Theatre in Akasaka, and this they sort of come back to this every 2 years or so, every alternate year, because the first musical that I saw from Kuroshitsuji was The Most Beautiful Death in the World rerun, which was held in the ACT Theatre in 2013. And the reason why I really like this theatre is that it's quite big and it's very it's not as big as the Tokyo Dome one, but it's big enough that it fits the stage without feeling too cramped, because when we saw Burning Licorice, that was set in the Blue Theatre, and it just felt like a shed in the middle of nowhere, and it just felt way too small to house a musical properly. Anyway, what they did for this one was they created sort of like a cross section of the ship. Obviously they weren't going to create, like, you know, a life-size model of it, but they sliced up the cross section of a ship and then they cut it in half and they moved it around so that pieces of the ship would swing to reveal a different scene. And I found that really it was really effective. They did a similar thing for the original Most Beautiful Death in the World, in which they just kept moving pieces of the stage together rather than having like the circus one last year had a set that didn't move because it was inside the circus tent, so that pretty much, you know, unless they were outside it, it just stayed within the tent. But in this one, as the characters moved through different parts of the ship, they would then move the sets, the pieces of the set, to change the scene. Now, they also integrated the use of projections on screens a lot more, and they've been doing that more and more since the Burning Licorice. So Madame Red had a flashback that was entirely using a projection, and in this one 2 whole flashback scenes are also done on the projection, using a projection on the screen, which I think is very effective because there's just some special effects that you can't just do with people. There's too much sort of supernatural stuff, too fast scene changes to be able to do that physically, but they're able to get through it using a projection. So we're going to start from the start with the musical itself. Now, they had characters boarding the ship, but they had them enter into the audience, which I thought was incredible. So they used the left and right doors in the actual floor of the theatre. So Abeline and Hanks came from the right side, and then you had followed by the Midford family, which was amazing because I really, you know, the Midfords are just such a formidable family in Kuroverse, and so seeing them, that they were only like a few rows from where we were seated in the matinee, on the left hand side, so we saw them come in. And Ronnie also used that entrance, and so Ciel and Sebastian used and Snake used the right hand entrance, and then they all sort of converged in the middle and then boarded the ship. I'll just go back a little bit to the Midfords and to Ronnie. They costumed them so well. Now, it's a shame because they were only in these costumes very briefly, because it was sort of their like traveling costume before they got changed into the ball gown, and they sort of spend the rest of their the Midfords spend the rest of the story in their formal wear, because that's sort of when all of it falls apart. But Lizzie has this really adorable, like, straight up and down pleated day. It was almost like a play dress because she was still quite young, so, and it had pleats down the bottom and it was like a pinafore. Absolutely adorable. The actress who plays her, Momoko, she's so cute. Like, you just want to protect her because she just embodies everything about Lizzie so well. And then you have Biosker, who's new as Ronnie, so we've never seen him before, and he played him. He's such a playful flirt, and you see him hitting on girls and, you know, making them laugh and flirting a little bit, and he did such a good job playing this sort of really suave, charming boy. And then you have Yuta and Rio, who play Sebastian and Ciel again, and I think that matters a lot because now the chemistry is quite set. So the two of them have fleshed out their characters, they've got some experience under their belt, they know who Sebastian and Ciel are to them as actors, and so to play them, they bring more to the character together rather than, you know, maybe a veteran of the play and someone new. So we open with, musically, we open with the Campania theme, and I think the important thing about this song is that they weave it 4 times into the musical. So they open with a Campania song, and all of the characters are standing on the back of the ship, and they're waving goodbye as they sing it as the ship leaves the dock. And they play it as a sort of really invigorating, bright, hopeful theme. You know, everyone's standing across on this journey to New York and everything is new and wonderful. And then later on they bring it just before intermission, and it's suddenly very intense because there's a battle going on, and the Bizarro dolls, the zombies, have, you know, taken over the ship, and everyone's just trying to survive, and they bleed that into the start of Act 2. They sing it in a very foreboding, creepy way because they're just trying to survive. And then they close off the musical with the Campania theme, but they sing it in a very sad and somber way because the cast, the ensemble cast pretty much has been halved because, you know, there's some survivors and then those who passed away. So I found that really good. Usually with the theme songs for the musicals, they only do them twice, sort of, you know, to set the scene, and then either at the interval or the finale. But it was really good that they wove it into the story this time, and it changed, because the ship itself is a character. If you think about it, at the start it's sort of bringing them to New York on this new adventure, and then the ship starts falling apart, and then in the end it completely collapses, and so the tone of the song changes as well. I wasn't kidding with these notes, guys. Where do we go from here? It is actually the shortest, I think it's the shortest musical out of all the musicals, and nothing drags, which is really important because in some of the other musicals I felt like some scenes just took way too long, but in this one it's sort of this happens and this happens and this happens, and then look at that, it's already intermission, and then we come back and it's Act 2 and this and this and this happens, and oh, the musical's finished. So, you know, nothing dragged, and it just felt like it went like that, which is good because you were entertained throughout the whole thing. They go straight from boarding the ship, the introduction of Lizzie finding Ciel, and then they go straight into the ball with magnificent costume design. I really enjoyed it. All of the ladies were in bustle gowns, and there was no repetition of design, and just the colors and the fabrics that they used, and everything was like period accurate, because sometimes they change a couple of the things. And I remember the very first musical, it was costumed by a fashion house, and so it wasn't really accurate to the period, but it sort of had the feel of the Victorian era because it was costumed by Alice and the Pirates and Baby the Star Shines Bright, which is a Lolita and Gothic aristocrat brand. But in this one, they made the costumes really, really vivid and beautiful, and everything, you know, glistened and caught the light. And with the ballroom scene, there was no, if you remember the manga, Ronald had a sort of like Jack from the Titanic scene where he was in like 3rd class and he was like having a beer and he was like flirting with girls and dancing. But in this one they scrapped that and they just put him on the main floor at the ball, along with Hanks and Abeline, and he was sort of trying to like teach them on like how to smooth talk girls, but obviously that failed. And so that was like a really, really funny moment. And then Ron swaps from playful to work mode like that, and that's really important as well because he's, you know, he's happy to mingle with humans, but there comes a point when they're just work for him, they're just jobs. And so he's having fun at the ball and then he checks his watch and he realizes, oh wait, I've got a task coming up so I better go, and he just disappears off. And then that also is the scene change for the Aurora Society, with of course the iconic Phoenix pose. And there's an important thing about Ciel's costume design as well, is that they put him in period accurate boots. So Victorian boots had a little bit of a heel that went inwards, and so the actor, so Rio, was in these really beautiful boots, but balance for him was quite difficult, and so him doing the Phoenix pose, he had to stand on one leg and like kick the other one up, and he was very, very wobbly because he had to balance on a heel, and so it just added to like the cuteness and awkwardness of it, and then him like cringing the whole time, and then it goes from like a really funny introduction with the Phoenix pose to the Dr. Liam Stoker doing the resurrection of the girl, and they did it in such an amazing way because they had the dead girl laid out on this table and they hooked up these fiber optic cables to a big machine, and when they turned the machine on, it like fed lights into her, and then she was electrocuted, and they wove it into a dance, like a hip-hop dance, and so she was like contorting while coming to life, and it was just an amazing effect. And then they used the projection screens to project blood when she attacked her mother and father. And then Ron comes sweeping in and he was like, you guys have to know, you have to get the head to kill them. And he puts his lawnmower scythe into the girl's face and just like rips it all off. And so, okay, whoops. So, I didn't realize it was going to cut off, so you're going to get this really weird cuts into this video. I'm so sorry. So Ronnie is in work mode, and he reaps the girl, and he has that moment of like taking out his list, and he's like, you were already dead, like why are we doing this twice? And you have the confrontation between him and Ciel and Sebastian, and then after that where am I going? Oh yeah, so what I didn't say was that so the Amazing Ensemble, who were all in ball gowns, are now the Amazing Ensemble in like zombie mode, as the Bizarre Dolls mode, and they were all absolutely amazing because they were really, really flexible, and they sort of threw themselves at the passengers, and the passengers died very violently. And then of course Takuya returning as Grell, who had to be obviously the most dramatic bitch ever, and she was waiting on the iceberg to enter at the most dramatic moment as possible. And it was like coming home, because Grell is sort of as much a part of all of the KuroMyus as Undertaker. And so then you also see Ronnie and Grell interact, and they have that very senpai-kohai relationship where Ronnie is really playful and teasing, and Grell is really fond and exasperated at the same time, and you know, she wants to play but they have a job, and you know, he never wants to do overtime, so he's like, listen, like the quicker we can do this, like the quicker we can go. And so in the musical, the way that it's written, there are 3 big reveals in the story. So the first reveal is Lizzie. It goes to Lizzie because I think before this manga chapter came out, she got a lot of shit, both like in the manga and the anime, just for being annoying. Like, a lot of people found her annoying. Her voice was high pitched. She got really excited. All she wanted to do was, you know, talk about cute things and put yelling cute things. But you know, she's a victim of her time and her class. So, you know, we're sort of watching this as modern viewers, and to us it's like, that's really annoying that that's all she does and she just wants to play. And but she sings about it in this really beautiful flashback, which shows the moment that CL during fencing class said that strong women are intimidating, and Lizzie decides then and there that she is not going to be intimidating, that she wants to hide. You know, she loves fencing and she was incredibly good at it, and you know, her father rewarded her with, you know, the high heels that she wanted, but she shunned all of that because CL said that strong women intimidate him. So, you know, that's also, CL's also a victim of his gender and his class at that time. And so Lizzie vowed that she would be cute and that she'd just remind him of soft, good things, things that don't intimidate him. And, you know, having the two is so important, because all this time we've only had CL. And so last time in Noah's Ark Circus we had Doll, or Freckle, for a little bit, and Freckle is the same age-ish as CL. However, the two of them are completely different classes. So, you know, Freckle came from absolutely nothing. She was destitute, she was an outcast, she was disabled, whereas CL and Lizzie come from everything. Okay, so I've just spent about 10 minutes trying to clear apps and stuff off my phone because I just don't have enough space. So there's going to be 3 cuts to this video, like there are 3 important scenes. There you go. So anyway, I was talking about how CL and Lizzie were brought up with everything at their fingertips. They are children of privilege and aristocracy, and so I think it was really important to have CL and Lizzie in this musical together, because if you remember back in Noah's Ark Circus, that part where all of the circus performers are bathing, and so Freckle just, you know, undressed like it was nothing, and then she went to undress CL, and CL got really, you know, closed off about it, not just because of the brand, but also the brand on his skin, but the propriety of it. And so in this musical there's also, and in the Ark, there's that scene where Lizzie is being weighed down by her heavy ball gown, and CL's like, you're gonna have to take it off, otherwise you'll die here. And for a second, you know, she does have that thought of like, should I then just die, because I will be that perfect soft fiance. But then later on she is forced to run around in her underpinnings, and also to reveal herself as a fencer of quite high regard and skill. And you know, it destroys that image CL has of her, and it destroys a part of Elizabeth herself, because, you know, she gets quite upset about it, and she cries because she's denied herself so many things in order to be the perfect fiance for CL. And it's just sort of like that suffering of her time and her class. It's expected of her to give up a lot of things to do that. But also another matter is that Lizzie and CL sort of show the scale of how young and how small they are, and they're quite squishy. Like they're very little young, you know, children in a way. They're barely into their adolescence, and so up against a cast of adults, even young adults, because Edward, the actor, turns 21 in a couple of days. You know, having Lizzie and CL there as barely on the cusp of adolescence is important to show the scale of the suffering that both of them have gone through. So I'm gonna have to go through these. I only have about 10 minutes left of recording left. So the second big reveal is Izumi, or Undertaker's big reveal, and he has always been this chaotic, neutral character, but on the sidelines in all of the musicals. You know, this time he got to show his Reaper self. It was the big reveal in the manga, the anime, the movie, and also now in the musical, that the Undertaker isn't just some bumbling, creepy Undertaker, but he's actually a Reaper, or was a Reaper. And I think because we've had Izumi all the way through, so from the very first musical, just like Takuya Grell, he's sort of built his character up from nothing. So he's built, you know, the comedy, the creepiness, the way his voice goes up and down, that deep sense of that grim part of him, that dark chaos of toying with human lives just for amusement. It's all about amusement for him because he's lived such a long span of life that he can't just sort of stand by. He sort of has to meddle in order to get a good laugh out of things. And it's so important because they actually give Izumi, Undertaker, they give him the tango from the Tango on the Campania. So his theme is a tango song, and it's sort of is bringing everything full circle. You know, he started off as this slightly creepy, you know, comes out of a coffin character, and then you saw a bit of darkness building up in all of the other musicals, but in this one he got his shining moment of just showing how much of a big player he is. So you've got Sebastian as one of the main players, but you've also got Undertaker, who brings the Reaper realm into the chessboard. And it was also important to show Grell and Ron, because you saw the confusion on their face, and then the realization, and then sort of the fear, because this is the first brush of mortality, because scythes are sort of like the one and only thing that can kill Reapers and demons. And so a scythe is sort of a weapon that can cut through all. It doesn't matter what you are, it can go through you. And so you had this, they built his scythe beautifully. So the Undertaker has like almost like a traditional Grim Reaper scythe, and it was magnificent to see because, you know, they had the rib cage and the skull on it, and then the big sweeping blade, and then, you know, that moment where he cuts through Grell and Ron, and they sort of collapse like rag dolls, because this is the one thing that can end them. And it's sort of important because then Sebastian is also taken a bit aback, and so he's launched into this big fight with them. And then the third big reveal is when the Undertaker's scythe goes through Sebastian. And in the Jack the Ripper arc, Sebastian's record is only briefly shown when Grell injures him, but she doesn't injure him enough for her to get a good look at his record. Whereas here, since the scythe goes, you know, straight through, it creates this a really lengthy flashback scene. And the title of the song and the flashback is "I am a butler and you are an earl," and it's sort of this pretend, this make-believe scene. And it's quite amazing because Sebastian at that point, he doesn't know how to human, let alone be a butler. And Ciel had like a switch flipped. He's gone from being a child who had everything to now nothing. He's a master of nothing, and he comes from nothing now because his whole past has gone up in flames, literally. And so there's this sort of dance of a demon and a child, and it's this, you know, some of it's funny, some of it's quite dark, because Ciel and Sebastian have to rapidly adapt to their roles. And, you know, you've got that tea scene where he doesn't like the tea, so he pours it on Sebastian's hands, and Sebastian uses a switch to hit Ciel's hands when he gets the homework wrong. And so you know, it's quite tiring for Sebastian, and he sort of has this 50-50 moment of, did I actually make the wrong call in giving my services to this child? But then Ciel gets called to Buckingham Palace for an audience with the Queen, and you know, she sort of knights him as the new watchdog because his father has died, so the role goes to him. And Alexis Midford, who's one of the knights of the Queen, puts this beautiful blue velvet cloak on him with the ribbon sash of his role, and Sebastian, Ciel sort of shows his resolve, the whole reason why he's doing this, and you know, he has this incredible show of emotional strength and sort of the beginnings of a monster in him. And so Sebastian's like, oh, actually, I think I did make the right call. And then after that, you know, the rest of it is Sebastian injured on a boat, and then you've got, you know, the water effects and fighting the zombies. Then you have Grell and Ronnie, that scene in the boat. So it's a bit different because Will isn't here this time, but pretty much they have a bit of banter, and Grell's like, right, well, roll up your sleeves because now the real work begins, because as they're looking out as the ship goes down, all of the soul records are coming up, and you know, now they actually have to start working. And then after that there's the reunion on the docks for the survivors, and the important part was Lizzie, she says "Okaeri nasai," which is like welcome back, and Ciel says I'm home, and that's so important because she is home for him. So I really don't have anything bad to say about this musical. Everyone was incredible, lighting incredible, staging incredible, costumes incredible. Everyone just played fleshed out roles. The music was, you know, amazing, and yeah, it's really good. I hope that, you know, you guys do invest in the Blu-ray and watch it because it's well worth it. I think if you haven't bought any of the other Blu-rays, this one's the one to get. Quickly, how long have I got left? I've got about 1 minute and 20 seconds left on my phone. So we are going to go through merch. So this is the beautiful visual book. I'm going to flick through. Right, that's all you're going to get. Bag. Pamphlet book. Flick it this way, Annie, they can't see that. And last but certainly not least, to add to my collection, is the musical company shirt. And that is it, guys. I'm tired. You're not going to see this till I'm back in Australia because I have to stitch these freaking videos together. But thanks for making it to the end, and I sincerely hope that you do invest in this Blu-ray because it was a great show.